Hi everyone, Dr. Joey here, and today we're going to be discussing ACER Therapeutics. Today is the first video that I'm devoting to ACER Therapeutics, and even in doing that, I want to make it clear that I'm discussing it within the framework of their new BFFs, Relief Thereapeutics. I felt it was only appropriate since ACER can't move further with any of their fantastic drugs they have in a pipeline without getting by with a little financial help from friends. Mainly Relief Thereapeutics. Relief Thereapeutics has given ACER a nice loan, but they also put an interesting clause in there in the contract stating that if ACER is not able to pay everything back by the specified date, then ACER will immediately relinquish all shares of the company, thus making them another acquisition on Relief Therapeutics, seemingly road to becoming the OTC ODD goats out here. Now, ACER Therapeutics is an interesting stock in that their balance sheet leaves a lot to be desired, as does their track record for getting drugs approved. Heck, even I have to admit, if it wasn't ACER Therapeutics, I probably would have a hard time having the same amount of interest I have in them. Yet, they have no trouble in attracting big-time institutional investors and retail investors alike, including myself. I'm an investor, and I definitely believe in them. Well, I look forward to sharing what I have on them, and if you have any extra knowledge that you'd like to share, please feel free to leave me some comments in the comment section below. As always, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to the video, and I appreciate your time in watching these, and I appreciate the support for all who have been sharing the videos on various platforms. That's it from me for the intro. So without further ado, let's get it. ACER Therapeutics and Relief Thereapeutics. Hi. The other day, Jack Weinstein did a great presentation on Relief Thereapeutics on the OTCM platform, and when I say the other day, I mean last Friday. I'm speaking in Southern colloquial terms. Forgive me for that. But the point is, if you didn't register and catch it, it's not too late. Just go over there and register now, and you can still watch it on demand. While you're over there, check out Else Nutrition's holding. That is going to be BABYF for their ticker symbol. Most people know that I'm very fond of 4 biotech stocks right now, and that's going to be ACER, which is ACER ticker, Relief, which is RLFTF ticker, and then Else Nutritions, which is BABYF for their ticker symbol, and finally Synexis, which is SCYX for their ticker symbol. Now, there's a couple of Easter eggs that were dropped in that video presentation, and I feel like there's also been some golden nuggets passed around lately over the last few months regarding ACER Therapeutics and Relief Therapeutics and their potential collaborations to come in the future. Now, I don't want anybody to be left out in the cold on these, so therefore I came with this presentation entitled it Key Things You May Be Missing. Key things you may be missing regarding ACER and Relief Therapeutics. Number 1, the pipeline is heavier than you thought. Let's take ACER 001 and talk about it for a second. Now, they have a PDUFA date of June 5th, 2022 of next year. So automatically, you know when that gets approved, when that date drops and FDA approves it, that stock is going to shoot up. So you can definitely make some money from that bounce, okay? So if you don't make money then, it is your own fault. You have the PDUFA date. You know there's a 90% chance of approval for that, and you know the history of this. So if you don't make money around that date, it is your own fault. One thing I will caution is to go ahead and get in there if you're going to play it with options or by just buying stocks outright in May sometime, and then in June, be ready to pull out if you're just trying to play the bounce. Be ready to pull out around June the 4th or on June the 5th itself. If you're in it for the long haul, then feel free to let it ride. You may be wondering, why did ACER Therapeutics go after urea cycle disorders first and not maple syrup urine disease, being that they received orphan drug designation, or ODD status as we call it, for the MSUD population? Well, the reason being that when you get ODD status granted, that ODD status only applies for the disease for which you are applying for and that drug that is going to consequently treat that disease population. In other words, even if it's the same drug, in this case sodium phenylbutyrate, which is ACER 001, that's going to treat both the UCD population and the MSUD population, because they applied for and got ODD status on MSUD, that is the only demographic for which benefits will qualify for, not for the UCD demographic group. Therefore, it was smart for them to go after the UCD group first. Why? Well, there are many different generic drug making organizations such as Dr. Reddy's Laboratory or also Teva Pharmaceuticals that like to lurk in the shadows, wait for patents to expire or for opportunistic moments, and then they will create a generic form of the drug, thus taking great revenue from the original drug manufacturers. If you remember, with ODD status, not only do you get a cash monetary benefit, but also you're going to get 7 years market exclusivity that is guaranteed to you. That market exclusivity will start immediately upon getting market approval for that particular drug. So, if ACER and Relief went after the MSUD demographic first, if we're going with this scenario, then they're going to have 7 years market exclusivity. But what happens to the UCD population? Well, you have generic drug makers that are waiting, and they can try to hurry and come up with something and get it on the market and take away that large demographic from ACER and Relief. But here's where they were genius. They went after UCD first. And doing that, once they get approved in June 5th of next year, they only have to solely focus and concentrate on getting that drug out there to that population, thus creating the infrastructure, the inroads, getting the facial recognition and familiarity with hospitals, clinics, and the practitioners, so that you can organically then bring the other drugs behind in that same infrastructure and distribution network, making it easier for yourself. Not only that, MSUD, that 7 years exclusivity is guaranteed, so they don't have to worry about now a generic drug maker coming and cutting them off at the pass and taking that population from them. Furthermore, because the 7 years exclusivity does not start until after you get approved for marketing, it doesn't even start until they go and apply for the PDUFA date for that MSUD population. All the while, they're making the money from the UCD population as well. That's how you play the game. APR, I just wanted to kind of highlight this particular segment of their pipeline, because if you notice that patented technology column there, whether it's physiomimic technology or their Teclo technology, the thing I want you to notice is APR is not just an R&D. They are not just a distribution network. They are not just a nutraceutical food producer, but they also have their own patented technology forms to deliver drugs. That's amazing, because now Relief Therapeutics, we can see them really starting to develop as a holding company that has multiple different services, not just for themselves to save money and their associated companies that are subsidiaries to save money, but they are able to offer these products and services now to other companies. We'll go over that more in depth in a little bit. But also we can see where they can license out their R&D facilities. They can license out these types of drug delivery technologies. We're starting to see everything really take shape for them being a holding company and having these great networks of not just their subsidiaries to rely on, but also other partners that they're able to work synergistically. I just wanted to highlight here because, as we all know, Wikipedia is a great source for starting, but they don't always have the most accurate information. Now, I've seen many times people think that First Stream Research is an acquisition of Relief Therapeutics. And if you see here at the top, under acquisitions, I got this straight off the Wikipedia page. It does say there that Relief acquired First Stream Research in July 2016. However, I just wanted to show everyone First Stream Research was not, in fact, acquired by Relief Therapeutics. And there is an email from both Relief IR team as well as First Stream IR team where they both are saying that no, Relief did not acquire and never did acquire First Stream Research. As I've said in a previous video, that deal did not go through, and I just wanted to make sure that I highlighted that for everyone, because I've seen that bounced around a couple of times, people wondering if that's part of the Relief family or not. No, First String is not part of the Relief family. Relief Therapeutics, they are a holding company. And if you don't know what that is, then please go back and watch one of the earlier video series I did, the first series actually on Relief Therapeutics, where I go in depth about what a holding company is, plus the benefits of Relief being a holding company. Even as such, though, they are still operating with their own drug. That is rare, and that is amazing. So Relief Therapeutics is now a holding company, plus a pharmaceutical company, plus a distribution partner, as evident with their deal with the ACER Therapeutics team. They're also a company who has subsidiaries that own multiple R&Ds, that have AI capabilities, and they have subsidiaries that are working with exclusive intellectual property and patents that are already sealed up. This is really shaping to be a future for Relief, and I'm excited to see where they go for the next decade. Lutris Pharmaceuticals. This is a company that most of you have probably never heard of, but that's okay, we're about to discuss it now. I want you to look at the top drug there. It says EGFR inhibitor induced acneiform lesions. So they are making a medicine that is going to help to diminish or alleviate the pain that comes with acneiform lesions from EGFR inhibitor drugs. EGFR stands for epidermal growth factor receptor inhibitor. Now, that's going to be a type or a class of anti-cancer drugs. When you give them, they give these very painful acneiform lesions. If you notice here, this is from APR. They also have a drug, APR-TM011, which is working on helping to alleviate the pain with these acneiform lesions. Now, why do you think I would show you two different companies that are seemingly working on the same exact drugs, or the same exact goal for their drugs? In other words, alleviating these painful lesions that come from anti-EGFR cancer drugs. Jack Weinstein is chairperson for the Lutris Board of Directors, as well as the CFO and treasurer for Relief Therapeutics. And while it is not rare for one individual to hold multiple positions such as this, it is one heck of a coincidence when you look at both companies are developing a drug with the same goal. They're going after the same kitty. All right? Lutris and APR, which is a subsidiary of Relief Therapeutics, are both developing drugs that look to be successful, that are going to go after those acneiform lesions caused by cancer drugs. Why is that important, and why am I highlighting that? Relief Therapeutics is a holding company. They specialize in acquiring new subsidiaries and merging with other companies. Lutris Pharmaceuticals looks like just the type of company that may fit the bill, and if Relief was able to pull that off, or at least work some kind of synergistic distribution deal like they did with ACER, if they were able to do that with Lutris, they would own that little niche market then of the anti-EGFR inhibitor cancer drugs, of having some type of alleviating drug to help with those painful acneiform lesions, which is one of the #1 side effects. In other words, it would be like owning Coke and Pepsi both. So Relief Therapeutics is really setting themselves up nicely. Now, some may cast this off as just pure coincidence. And while it could be, my grandfather always told me if it quacks like a duck, looks like a duck, and walks like a duck, it's probably a duck. Let's see if there's any other coincidences here. Thomas Plitz. He is not only CEO of Core Therapeutics, but he is also a member of the board of directors for Relief Therapeutics. Now, he is CEO of Core Therapeutics, and their main drug is going to be cladribine. Cladribine has been shown recently to have extremely good synergistic effects when you combine it with EGFR inhibitor drugs for different types of cancers, especially for metastatic breast cancers and hairy cell leukemia, several other types of cancers as well. The #1 side effect of EGFR drugs is what again? Acneiform lesions. What are we seeing that cladribine which is Core Therapeutics' main product, and Thomas Plitz is the CEO over there, what are we seeing that cladribine is doing? It is having fantastic results when it works synergistically with these same cancer drugs. How can we alleviate the problem, though, that if we combine cladribine with these cancer drugs, they are working fantastic and reaching whole new heights, all right, as far as the clinical results. However, the main side effect, again, is these acneiform lesions. Wow, would you look at there? You just look right across the table at your fellow board member, Jack Weinstein, and you immediately see you have the whole niche market settled, and you can really leverage that and work out a fantastic deal now between cladribine plus the acneiform lesion alleviating drugs, which that's the Coke and Pepsi, okay, of that world. And then you can bring that to some big pharmaceutical company like Merck or Pfizer who's producing these anti-EGFR inhibitor drugs. If we see Thomas Plitz or Jack Weinstein, the companies that they're associated with, get snatched up by Merck or Pfizer, I would say start looking out then for potential leveraging deals to follow. It could be just speculation, it could be just coincidence, but hey, if it quacks, looks, and walks like a duck, it's probably a duck. Number 2. ACER will be valued over $6 per share after June 5th, 2022, at some point. When we look at Seeking Alpha, which we know is no slouch when it comes to credibility, and they back themselves up with great facts, figures, and statistics, this author said that they believe ACER Therapeutics, that they're going to be worth $8.70 per share when we look at a base case revenue. Now, you know there's worst case scenarios, best case scenarios, and then base case scenarios. Now, when I did the numbers, I got around 620, somewhere around there. Now, you all know that I'm a value investor, and I'm very conservative with my numbers and figures when I'm working these things out. So, I accept that. So, I'm going with 650, all right? And this author goes with 870. Let's just go in between there and say that it's somewhere around $7 or a little more. ACER Therapeutics, regardless of which figure you want to go with, they are currently trading at only $2.20 per share. And if you caught them just 2 weeks ago, they were dipping under $2 frequently. And it's going to grow to this number, possibly. But at least, I'm going to go with my figures that I got, $6.50. And that's extremely hardcore conservative for it. So ACER Therapeutics is a fantastic deal, and it's a great entry point in this moment. Number 3, ACER is low-key flexing a government partnership with blockbuster potential. Now, some of you have heard me talk about this drug before, because not only do I love it, but the former NIH director, Francis Collins, he loves it, and several other people at NIH love it. Imitine. ACER Therapeutics and NCATS are going to partner to develop Imitine. Now, this was announced originally because they were looking at it for COVID-19. Now, if you don't know much about NCATS, it is going to be a division of NIH, and it's going to stand for National Center for Advancing Translational Sciences. And they use AI software to look at all already approved drugs in the FDA database and see which ones, their different simulations, would have the greatest potential benefit of fighting against different diseases. They did this with COVID-19. In fact, this was some of the early supporting evidence for them giving the go-ahead green light for trying remdesivir and then trying out some other drugs like hydroxychloroquine and chloroquine. Now, I know not all of you have watched some of my other videos previously, so I'm just going to throw in some different nuggets when I feel that they're pertinent. I've gone over in the series From A to Zysamine. I've talked about how hydroxychloroquine, along with chloroquine and azithromycin and a couple of other drugs like that, they initially showed great results when they were put through AI simulation software. But this whole process is still new, uncharted, and unprecedented. So what looked good on AI software and looked dang good on paper, in vitro studies, it didn't do the same when it was in vivo, meaning in humans. So what they didn't realize is that it was going to cause phospholipidosis. In other words, big soapy fat bubbles that would start to form. Because when you're testing something in a petri dish, And when you're doing it on AI software, you still just can't simulate all of the different factors that go on in a human cell. Imatine is something that would be cheap to produce, and we see that ACER Therapeutics, they are the ones who hold that patent for it, and NCATS is working with them. I did talk to the representative over there at ACER Therapeutics the other day, and I did confirm with him that the only thing holding this back right now from progressing further is they are waiting on several government grants that they've applied for, as well as looking for other non-dilutive funding. Something else that I'll throw in there is this is no longer just a COVID-19 play. They have high hopes for this to go against many, many intracellular viruses such as HIV, Zika virus, as well as the SARS-CoV-1, SARS-CoV-2, and MERS-CoV, and several other different viruses. They're really, really excited for this, and I can't stress that enough. And this is the government, guys. We have NRXP, who is working with NIH and iSpy. Then we have ACER, who's working with NCATS from NIH. And the common thread in all of this is Relief Therapeutics. Number 4, Relief Therapeutics will be the new NIH after this pandemic, but as a holding company that you can invest in. What do I mean by this? Well, exactly what I was explaining about NCATS and working with that AI software there. That is going to be the wave of the future and the first initial tests that they're going to start using when we're trying to look and see what drugs could potentially be worth the amount of time and effort spent to develop to go after certain diseases or viruses. Relief Therapeutics has signed that strategic collaboration with NVNI, and they're going to be doing the same thing, not only for themselves, but they're going to license this service out also to other companies and corporations possibly. Now, this is not the first rodeo for Relief Therapeutics when it comes to dealing with AI platforms and software. If you look in their history, they originally were Mondo Biotech, and they started out doing this kind of things. They were just ahead of their time. But now they are able to come back as a holding company, face things a little bit more strategically now, and able to, do third partying for this kind of software. So this works better in my opinion because you have a company that can just solely focus on providing that AI capabilities. If they're not good, Relief can cut them and they can go back to the drawing board and create their own platform, or they can look for another third party. This is the beauty of being a holding company. Number 5, ACER is batting .850 each time it steps up to the plate. Now, we know they're not batting a perfect 1,000, right? Which is hitting every single time they step to the plate because they've had 2 denials of their Edsevo drug. But that was previous to Relief Therapeutics coming on board. Since Relief Therapeutics came on board, they've not just been a distribution deal. They've actually helped ACER to get their application approved for ACER 001. Excuse me, not approved, but get it accepted, which is a large step. That actually goes from 85% to around 90 or 92% approval rate for next year once it got accepted and announced by FDA. Because, you see, ACER, one thing that they do is they go after drugs that they can get approved through Section 505(b)(2) by the FDA protocol. And Section 505(b)(2) drugs means it is a drug that is already approved, therefore it has already proven itself to have a fantastic safety profile. Also, it's shown efficacy. We know that it works, and you simply have to tweak it enough that it qualifies as a new version of that drug so that you can patent it, and then you can push this new version through. This is what they did with sodium butyrate. Sodium butyrate has been approved. It has been on the market for people with UCDs and MSUD. But the problem is the taste and the odor is so bad, the patient's compliance is horrible with it. Therefore, ACER simply found a way to taste mask it and to odor mask it and then get that patented. And this is where we are in the process. Section 505(b)(2) has been an extremely profitable route that we've seen many pharmaceutical companies do. It is so profitable, in fact, that some companies are existing now to only look for drugs through AI software, once again, and rapidly find drugs already on the market that can be used for other purposes, tweak the drugs just enough to get a patent on it, and then they sit on the patent never with the idea to try to develop it, but they're just sitting on it, waiting on a company to come along and say, dang, they beat me to the drawing board. They beat me there first. Hey, can we buy your company, or can we buy those patents? And that's how those companies are making their money. It's very similar to how certain people or companies will snap up a lot of different website URLs and hold them, and then one day someone like me comes along and say, I want drjoeyjohnson.com. Well, dang, this other company owns that already. Although they're not using it, they're holding it, and they're only going to sell it to me for $500 or more. This is, unfortunately, how you play the game also. Number 6, the RLFTF and NRXP lawsuit will be settled. I have strong reason to believe that this will be settled, and I don't think that they're going to waste time around on it. In fact, they're going through the discovery process right now. For those of you who know the legal terminologies, you will know it's a natural part of this. After they're done with discovery and see what each side has, then they can try to move swiftly to try to find some type of arrangement or some type of mediation to do a pretrial diversion in a sense. We'll see what happens, but I have strong reason to believe that this is going to be settled outside of court. Number 7, even if there is no Avipta deal, Relief Therapeutics is a solid buy at this level. One of the main types of valuation multiples is enterprise value divided by EBIT, which is earnings before interest and tax. When we look at that for Relief Therapeutics, their fair value currently right now is sitting at 12 cents. That's with absolutely no product sales. That's without factoring in the APR or the Advita purchases or their ACER distribution deal. Just Relief alone sitting with their 45 million in Swiss francs right now that they have in the bank, plus the assets they currently own, plus the royalties that they're getting from other sales in the previous years, such as with Sonnet Biopharmaceuticals selling off, their licenses for Alphalexin there, some of the other sales of assets they've made recently. Off of those royalties alone, plus the 45 million Swiss francs they hold currently, plus the interest they're going to get back or are currently receiving from loans they've dealt out, they are worth double what their current price is right now at market. That, to me, says that this is a fantastic entry point. I'm just saying, they have more cash on hand on their balance sheet than they have debt. They're currently worth alone in their assets only. They're worth double what they're currently selling for at market value. And that's not including the Advita purchase, not including APR. That's not including the intellectual properties that come with such, the patents they already have, the ODD statuses they've gained by purchasing those companies. That's not including any of the products and services they can offer out, as I said, like the AI and the R&D. That's not including their ACER distribution deal. So I hope you can see where this is going. Number 8, Swiss Age may be the dark horse of the group. Swiss Age just may be the surprise of Relief Therapeutics holding family. It may be that number 5 horse that comes from way in the back and at the end wins by a nose, because we may not have expected this to do as well as it may do. Nutraceuticals. This is a market of foods containing health-giving additives and having medicinal benefits. I just did some clippings here that I pulled, and if you look there, a CAGR of 8.9% is expected from this group. Another group estimated at 7.9. The group here on the bottom says 7.8. If any of you just go do a Google search about CAGR, if you don't know about that, and you will see that this is where you want to be. This is great CAGRs right here for the coming up years. Not only that, look at the valuation of that market for nutraceuticals. 400 billion plus. Okay, that was in 2020. Now, when we're talking 2026, it's gone up to 440 billion plus. That's estimated for global nutraceuticals. What we know is APR has that global infrastructure, that global distribution network. And we see big companies like PepsiCo and General Mills and Kellogg's, Nestle, several others, trying to really hop onto this nutraceuticals bandwagon. But I love APR's approach to it. They are not only going with nutraceuticals, they are doing a whole branding campaign of Swiss Age, and they are going for actual tailored groups and demographics within the adult aging process. For instance, here you see a menopause balancer, a memory booster, a sleep enhancer, energy provider, bones fortifier. They're going for different tailor-made age populations or demographics from other classifications. They're going and targeting those groups with nutraceuticals. That's innovative. That's fantastic. And that may be a dark horse in the making. Number 9, Relief Therapeutics is quickly becoming the ODD GOAT out here. And if you don't know, but GOAT stands for greatest of all time. ODD is for the orphan drug designation. When we look at orphan drug designations, all right, that ACER already holds, and let's keep in mind, hey, I have to get back on the screen for this. When we look at ACER Therapeutics and the base case scenarios for what we expect for their price to sales ratios, units sold, etc., and we look at that they're trading right now by market at 3 to 4 times less than their own base case scenarios for sales of products, we can't forget the possibility that Relief may look to merger with them or acquire them in the future. Don't forget, it was just March of this year that big-time investors and investment writers such as Zacks Research Group, as well as Motley Fool and others, were all excited, the same as many retail investors, including myself, at the prospect and the possibility of what looked to be a kind of public courting between Relief Therapeutics and ACER Therapeutics, if you will. It's still not off the table that Relief Therapeutics may go for the move and try to acquire or merge with ACER Therapeutics in the near future. But when we look at the ODD statuses and what joy that brings, remember, that's a monetary value of benefits of approximately $3.9 million plus 7 years market exclusivity, plus exclusive access to the FDA for help along the process, plus automatic guaranteed fast track designation. I mean, we have a beauty that's shaping up here. This could be a beautiful 2022, and I could see many of you in Vegas by the end of next year. Just saying. But I just wanted to highlight especially for you guys here, look at the orphan drug designations that ACER holds for MSUD and also Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. All right, then we go to Relief Therapeutics. They hold ODDs for Viptidil, for ARDS, for SIDS. That's going to be acute respiratory distress syndrome. And then SIDS is sudden infant death syndrome, which is like ARDS for babies, sarcoidosis. And then APR holds it for their product for epidermolysis bullosa. They also have an ODD status for PKU, and they have ODD status for a product for Haley-Haley disease. These are already granted and approved. Other drugs in the phase 3 or marketing phase of the pipeline. Now, these drugs are not ones with ODD statuses, but they are in phase 3 or the marketing phase. Number 10. ACER and Relief Therapeutics are heavy on institutional and inside investors. When we look at Relief Therapeutics, and this is going to hold true for all of the different companies we're about to look at, I want you to look at this lower right quadrant here that says share statistics. Come on down here and you'll see float, then percentage held by insiders and percentage held by institutions. That's your institutional investors right there. Relief Therapeutics, 30% of their shares are held by institutional investors and 10% is held by the insiders. That's amazing. That is amazing. So 40% of their shares are already locked down between institutional investors and insiders. ACER Therapeutics, 45% of their shares are locked down. So a very similar profile to Relief Therapeutics. 30% is held by institutions and 15% by insiders. When we look at a company like Roche Holdings, which we all know how fantastic they are one of the only large chip stocks that has decided to stay on the OTC market, and they do fantastic. But the fact that they are on OTC holds them back from certain institutions investing, because as a rule, Many hedge funds just will not touch OTC stocks. It's not allowed by them. Dealing with other people's money and such, many of them have rules against that. So even a fantastic company like Roche Holdings, you will see that they only have 1.5% institutional investors, despite them continuously coming out with fantastic new drugs. So what does that tell you when we look at the institutional investor size, look at that pool for Relief Therapeutics, who is still on the OTC market at the moment? Although now they're moving to ADR. And that is a move that has been pushed forward not just by Relief Therapeutics. In my understanding, that is a move that is coming on the heels of many requests from different institutions as well. I just wanted to throw this out here because we only go for stonks, right? I mean, I'm trying to be Stonky Kong out here for 2022 for y'all. Percentage held by institutions for Synexus is 66%. I just want to show y'all, this is what they mean by follow the smart money. All right, you want to see where are the hedge funds investing, and if you're doing the same as they are, but you came to that conclusion on your own, you're probably on the right track. NRXP. I did not throw this up here to throw any shade at NRXP. That is our partner for Relief Therapeutics. Plus, I've been very open. You know, my four bio stocks. All right, I'm wrapped up with SCYX, BABYF, Relief Therapeutics, and ACER Therapeutics. I do own a little of NRXP though, but I'm not 100% a believer there yet. My hesitations looks confirmed from other institutional investors as well. When you hear it first that 60% plus of their shares are already snapped up, that sounds good, but then you realize 3.6% is what institutions own, and 59% of their shares are owned by the insiders. So that shows a tremendous amount of confidence in the insiders, but not so much with the institutional investors just yet. Compare that with what we've seen with ACER and Relief and Synexus. Again, I am not throwing shade at NRXP. I have great respect for them over there, and of course, I want them to succeed. I think anyone who's in Relief Therapeutics wants them to succeed. Number 11. Aviptidil is not the main breadwinner for Relief Therapeutics. That may be a big shocker for many of you. The actual breadwinner is going to be their drug for epidermolysis bullosa. If you look right here, APR TD001, that is estimated to have $955 million at peak sale. Well, 955 million Swiss francs in revenue at peak sale. That outpaces the amount of revenue that even Aviptidil would have brought in if you look at even the inhaled version, and if it was approved early in the COVID-19 process. Therefore, the time for Relief Therapeutics and the moon date, when are we going to the moon, has not even come close yet. This is expected to drop, if everything goes according to plan, around 2025, 2026. Remember, I've been saying since day one, I'm in it for the long haul. I'm expecting, if I'm going to pull out of Relief Therapeutics, it would be sometime after 2025. Most likely, I would stay in all the way until 2026, towards the end of that year. But I don't know. The stuff I'm seeing coming out and the stuff I'm hearing from their camp, the stuff I'm seeing coming out, publicly announced, I just might go ahead and count this for a long haul. This might be one that I'm forced to put inside my retirement accounts. I respect and I like what they're doing that much that this is a high prospect of one of those stocks that I might throw into my retirement accounts. Not just playing for even 5 years. They went from a short-term COVID play for me to a long-term 5+ year play for me. And now I'm looking at them for even longer terms. They have been that impressive with their run. Number 12. Weighted average of capital costs plus the dividends plus their Swiss holding status put Relief Therapeutics as a sitting swan. Many of you may not know about WACC yet. Just know that it is the hurdle. It is the hurdle number, as they call it. Basically, if your hurdle number is 6%, right, then that means you have to increase your stock price by 6% each year to keep the investors' interest, or else you run a high risk of losing your investors because you're not returning to them enough in dividends or return on their investment to keep them there. That weighted average cost of capital goods, there's a lot that goes into that. It will be best to, if you're not familiar with that, I cannot do it justice in just giving a quick definition here. Just watch that when I come out with the fundamentals video, or the valuations video. I'll talk about it there. And also, of course, you can do your own research for it. But for right now, just know that is the hurdle number for those of you who are not familiar with it. When it comes to the Swiss holding status, please go back and look at the first series I did on Relief Therapeutics, again, where I discussed not only being a holding company, but a Swiss holding company in particular, because that's what really seals the deal for how good Relief Therapeutics has positioned themselves as a holding company. To give y'all an idea about Relief Therapeutics and why they're in such good position, look right here in the bottom right-hand corner here, you'll see WACC, the mid-level. So that's the average for them, is around 6.3%. Okay? That's going to include tax rates, cost of debt after tax, the cost of the capital goods, shipping, all these different factors, all right? Selected betas, all of that. What I want you to notice, 6.3%, I want you to see how that compares with other similar companies. You will be hard-pressed to find any company besides Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson that will have a lower WACC number. Relief Therapeutics has done an amazing job at positioning themselves in a great country and in a great territory, by the way, on top of that has fantastic tax benefits, plus in doing all kinds of different methods and strategies to reduce the cost of their capital goods and to alleviate some of the burdens for distribution networks and infrastructure setups that a lot of their money is coming through on the back end. Benjamin Franklin said a penny saved is a penny earned. And what that means is, look, if you're used to spending a penny per day and suddenly you get whatever you're spending a penny per day for free and you can keep that penny in your pocket, you save that penny. But that's equal, is it not, to working a job and getting a penny. So a penny saved is the same as earning the penny. In other words, anytime we can get something like an ODD status, that right there is saving you, for instance, $2.9 million on the PDUFA fees. However, if you're saving that and you otherwise would have had to pay it, is that not the same as getting a check for $2.9 million? So with this kind of mentality, you can really see how holding companies stand to give a tremendous benefit, not only to the companies themselves, but that status as a holding company gives the investors a tremendous benefit as well. So Relief's WACC, their average is 6.3%. Let's compare that to some other similar companies. Bayer, 7.5%. Synexus, 11.3%. That's expected because they're a new company, okay? That's not, when you're starting off, you have to spend money to make money. You have to buy new facilities. You have to rent new places. You have to set up for the first time fees for some of that infrastructure for distribution networks. You have to purchase equipment for making the drug. All of these things are factored in. NRXP, 7.5%. ACER, 7.8%. Pfizer, 5.5%. As I said, unless it's a Pfizer, and that's saying a lot, okay? Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson have been around for some of the longest as pharmaceutical companies. And one thing Johnson & Johnson has the advantage of is they're a holding company also. So they get to cut a lot of costs. All those benefits come along with being a holding company. But it says so much for Relief that you have to be a Johnson & Johnson or a Pfizer to have a lower hurdle number. Okay, that just proves how much handiwork Relief has been doing. But the average investor doesn't notice this. For the average investor, you're not going to see Relief as a good stock until probably 2025 or 2026. Again, this is how you play the game, though. This is why you do the research early. Moderna, 7.5%. Purple Biotech, 9.8%. Johnson & Johnson, 5.5%. So you guys get the point. Okay, that concludes this video. For those of you who are interested in ACER Therapeutics only and heard more about Relief Therapeutics than you probably wanted to, my apologies, but as I've said, it's almost impossible to discuss ACER without being in the context of Relief, being that Relief has been their financial pipeline, or their financial lifeline, we can even say lately, right? Now, when it comes to the stock market, something you've heard me say several times is, it is not hard making money in the stock market. The stock market kills people for two reasons. One is the patience it requires for those maturity dates to hit, or catalyst dates. And number two, investing with money that you won't need while you wait. In other words, most people need to remove the money out before they can allow it to sit and hit those catalyst dates. There's going to be snags sometimes, even when you know the dates. Case in point is NRXP this year. And for Relief investors, we did not expect the trouble, obviously, with the American partner NRXP. And furthermore, we did not expect the second set of troubles, which has been the FDA and NRXP and whatever is going on with that dynamic, right? However, it doesn't change the course. It doesn't change the goal, the end goal. It just requires more patience, all right? And so, again, the patience that it takes, and also not touching the money so that you can let it sit and mature for catalyst dates. June 5th of next year is another case in point. We have that date for ACER Therapeutics, PDUFA date. We have a repeat of what happened this summer with Synexus, SCYX. I told everyone, go back and look at the Yahoo message boards. I told everyone in April and May, invest in them. We got in at $5.50 and $6. Those of us who got in then, we got out at $12 or $13 like clockwork on the date of PDUFA. I told everyone, that's okay, that wasn't the big one. Those of us who was playing it so we could get more than double our money got just that. But I told everyone, get back in December. All right, what time is it? December. What should you be doing? Getting back in SCYX, right? This is not guesswork, it's not lucky, and I don't have any special skills or something. Why did I know December, all of this press and public announcements and stuff would start coming out? Because the manufacturing process and the timeline, the chronological timeline for that, okay? Plus, of course, talking to people in their camp and everything, seeing where they are in their processes, checking up and double checking on the numbers, the fundamentals, all of those things, right? Why do you think Dr. Michael Burry and other people like that who've been doing this for years, also those kind of informations about them investing big money started coming out around November, December? Again, it's all on the timelines, all right? Don't let Wall Street fool you. Learn about these things because you can apply it not only to the stocks you're invested in, but to other potential stocks you want to get in. And that's how you play the game. I'm Dr. Joey, and I hope that you'll join me for some other videos that are not financial advice, just like this one is not. This is for educational and entertainment purposes only. But please remember to like, share, and subscribe these educational and informational and hopefully entertaining videos. Thanks a lot. See you next time.